Hello, members of the most illustrious fantasy football league, EaglePoint Butts. It is I, Missioner and 3-time undisputed champion, JC Callahan, coming at you live from EaglePoint Butts HQ. And I've heard your cries. I've heard your desires for critique to be judged once again, and I am here to impart that judgment on you. What a season we had last year. What a great year we had. Everybody was really in it until the very last week, basically, and it's going to be very tough to top that this year. But I'm excited for it. It was a lot of fun last year. And this year, we're going to do a little bit of a different mix-up for the draft grades. Usually, I'll go team by team and give out a letter grade. This year, I think we're actually going to get in with the times, get in with the youths, and make a tier list of where I think everybody ranks after their draft. And we'll talk in detail about their drafts. But as I was pulling together the information and my research that I do so diligently for this league, I was just reminded that, I get to impart all this information to you, the common folk, the people, for free. And what a blessing that must be for all of you every week to get information like this to better your lives in fantasy football. Me being, again, a 3-time champion and also a champion in most leagues I've been in. It's just great information to have for you people to get better. And knowing that it's coming from a trusted source of credibility. And once again, I am here to impart that judgment that you are so desiring in your lives. So without any more ado, let's get into the tier list and draft gradings for this year's draft. All right, so right here we've got our good old tier list. And for those of you that don't know what a tier list is, it's basically tiers that'll rank our teams, S being the best, D being the worst. There'll be multiple teams in a tier. There will be some teams in one tier. We've got all of our beautiful logos here. Some of these probably could be updated, just saying. But yeah, we're going to do this in order of draft rank. So Bert's going to go first. So good old Bert's Butts. I love that logo, by the way. It's freaking hilarious. What's funny is Friday night, Bert and I were talking, and he was really trying to mess with me and get in my head because at that point we knew that he had the first overall pick and I had the second overall pick, and I was like, hey, who are you taking? And he was really trying to throw me off, and he was like, I don't know, I might take, there's a lot of people I could take. I could take Tyreek, I could take somebody, I'll throw you a curveball, you'll never know. Well, he got in my head, it worked, and I did some mock drafts the next day where I got Christian McCaffrey second overall just to see what my team would look like. So kudos to Bert. But he did take Christian McCaffrey first overall, which was the right pick. I would have been thrilled to get him second overall. Thought there was no way that would ever happen. Bert got him first overall, as he should. And so kudos to Bert for not letting him fall like some people did the year before, which resulted in Zach's 4th championship. I just want to reiterate that Christian McCaffrey fell to pick number 5 last year. And the 4 picks before Zach picked, you are all the reason Zach won his 4th championship. I just want you to know that. So kudos to Bert for not letting Christian McCaffrey fall this year. That being said, how was Bert's draft? Well, to me, it was a classic Bert draft. I think there were some plays he thought were big brain plays. Bert really loves to make the big brain play to get the guy, everybody doesn't think about or like is going to be a big payoff that's not there yet. And the problem I have with that strategy is you pass through a lot of proven talent whenever you're just looking to make the big splash play. So one of the things we're going to talk about is best pick per team, most questionable pick per team, worst pick per team. So Bert's best pick on his team, right here in round 4, Bert got Brandon Ayuk. It's a great steal. And I was going to take him round 5 with instead of DK if he was there. It's crazy that he dropped that far. There's a lot of craziness that happened in this draft that we'll talk about. But that is a steal of a pick in round 4, and it really helps Bert's draft drastically. What we'll find throughout this is if everybody drafted better, if people actually went off of real ADP of players, there were a lot of people's drafts that would have gotten more exposed. I think Bert's draft would have gotten more exposed if some people picked a little bit better in this round specifically, especially for good old Brandon Ayuk. But Brandon Ayuk, Burt got him in the end of the fourth round. What a freaking steal. Best pick, most questionable pick for Burt, Marvin Harrison Jr. And I don't think Marvin Harrison Jr. is a bust or anything like that. But when you're spending your second pick on Marvin Harrison Jr., you are exposing your team. You're pushing all your chips into the middle for a rookie on a questionable offense on a questionable team, with a quarterback who's injury prone. I'm not saying like none of these guys are injury prone. Marvin Harrison Jr. is a rookie. Do you think he's going to have as good a rookie season as Puka Nacua did last year? Because that's what you're saying if you're taking him in the second round. Be very interesting to see how that plays out. It's not a bad pick. I think it's the most questionable pick he had. Which brings me to Burt's worst pick, which I'm probably going to get flack for this, but I don't care. Josh Allen in the beginning of the third round. Let me ask you, what would scare you more? And I'm going to try to do this with most teams to kind of walk through what they could have done instead of doing what they did. Let me ask you, what scares you more? The way Burt drafted here, so CMC to Marvin Harrison to Josh Allen. What if Burt instead did CMC to Marvin Harrison to Cooper Kupp, which he could have done? So he could have had unbelievable, the best running back, 2 top-tier wideouts, right? And then in the fourth round, he gets Ayuk. You know, his wide receiver core is so stacked at that point. He could have done that. But instead, he took Josh Allen and Rachaad White in the fifth round, which I think also was only okay. And I just think it exposes his team a lot. And I think outside of CMC and Josh Allen, because they are the guys for their offense, Burt might have some struggles. Let's head on over to his team and kind of get a holistic approach to this. We look right here. Josh Allen, Christian McCaffrey, Rachaad White, not my favorite pick for RB2. And you'll find when you're looking at these that Burt really doesn't have starting players that are the guys for their team. Marvin Harrison Jr. is a rookie. Is he going to become the guy? We'll see. We don't know if he is because he's a rookie. Rachaad White, Mike Evans, and Chris Godwin, better options in the Tampa Bay Bucks. Rachaad White is heavily reliant on getting dump offs. We'll see if he gets those this year. But he's not a league winner. Chris McCaffrey obviously is. Josh Allen, okay. You know, I'm not going to hate on taking Josh Allen in the third round that much because I do love Josh Allen. It was just Burt had some opportunities to really get league winners, and he went with people that aren't even the number ones in their offense. Brandon Ayuk, I know Brett will say, well, he's the number one receiver on the depth chart. Deebo Samuel is the number one receiver for the 49ers. Nico Collins is the number one receiver for the Houston Texans, who have a lot of mouths to feed. Marvin Harrison Jr. is a rookie. Evan Ingram, David Montgomery. Usually you'll look at this team, and David Montgomery is not the RB1. Usually you'll look at this team and say, okay, that's pretty solid. But wait until you see what some of these other teams have. Just wait until you see what some of these other teams have. For that reason, Burt is going to land right in the between B and C. It's between B and C. I'm going to give him a C. I'm just going to do it. Just going to do it. Give him a C. Up next, we have the boss. And I like my team. I'm not going to say this is like the most amazing team I've ever had, but I think it's a solid team. There were some picks I was hoping I could make that just didn't fall to me, like getting Josh Jacobs instead of Devon Achane. I'm not low on Devon Achane this year. I like Josh Jacobs a lot this year. It just didn't fall to me. And then I also thought I had a chance to snag Amari Cooper in the 6th round. And Champ was able to grab him from me. So I probably would have gone Amari Cooper, then Rashee Rice, or Amari Cooper, then Trey McBride, and let Rashee Rice drop a little bit more, although he would have gotten taken. People got me crap for that pick. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. Anyways, but overall, I can't complain about the draft. I really tried to not reach and try to take best available player in all cases. I would have loved to have gotten Derrick Henry instead of Isaiah Pacheco, but I don't think there's any world where that would have happened, and so I'm not going to lose sleep over it. Best pick for me, my plan was to go wide receiver RB. Thankfully, that worked out. CD to Isaiah Pacheco to Cooper Kupp to Devon Achane. And I think that best pick is Cooper Kupp. Some people were snarking a little bit at that pick that early, but here's the thing, and we'll talk about this for a couple people's drafts. If you love a player and you think that player is not going to be there on your next pick, you take that player. People that snicker at me, do you think Cooper Kupp is going to be there at pick 38? He's not. Somebody is going to take him. Would you rather have Cooper Kupp or anybody in this tier? Cooper Kupp. Possible league winner right there. And so that, in my opinion, is the best pick that I had. Most questionable pick is Rashee Rice, although he wasn't taken far away from his ADP. People also thought that was a bit of a reach, but if you look at actual rankings, he's actually going higher than that. There was questions around, and the reason behind that is because people thought he was going to get suspended this year. That's why his ADP was so low. People don't realize after their bye week last year, he was wide receiver 9 in the league. Fantasy football, the holding. He was wide receiver 9. And he took over 25% of the target share for Patrick Mahomes. And so Rashee Rice and him already have a connection, which is why round 6 is a great place to take him. I thought I wouldn't get another chance if I waited on that. Also, the Trey McBride pick in round 7 I do really like, but that one isn't super far off his ADP. Now, why is it questionable? Because, he's a talented guy, a lot of mouths to feed in Kansas City, and he could still get suspended. And so you are kind of taking a risk there. Worst pick, and I think this is a tough one because there weren't really any egregious picks that were made. And a lot of teams are going to be like this, where there really weren't any egregious picks that were made. I'm not saying that just because it's my team. I don't really care too much for DK Metcalf. Talented receiver, obviously. Got a tremendous amount of upside. He's just not my favorite receiver. And so I would have loved to have gotten Joe Mixon in that spot. Or Brandon Ayuk is who I really was hoping to get there. But I'm not going to complain because DK Metcalf has tremendous upside. And so that's my least favorite pick that I made. We look on over at my team. Here, let me do this. Let me copy and paste. That way we can kind of go side by side here and compare. So, Christian McCaffrey and Rachaad White versus Isaiah Pacheco and Devon Achane. I didn't have a first round RB, but if I had to choose between Christian McCaffrey and Rachaad White or Devon Achane and Isaiah Pacheco, I'm probably taking Isaiah Pacheco and Devon Achane. I'm just being honest with you, although Christian McCaffrey almost outweighs both of those. Cooper Kupp, DK Metcalf, CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Ayuk, Tank Dell, Marvin Harrison Jr. Which wide receiving core would you rather have? Trey McBride or Evan Ingram? Which tight end would you rather have? Now you can say David Montgomery over Rashee Rice, but David Montgomery's an RB2 and he's getting older. The only really clear advantage here that Bert has is at the quarterback spot, assuming Josh Allen has another Josh Allen year with a bad receiving core. So I'm just telling you, I'm not saying this to crap on Brett's draft, but I think he really missed some big upside choices by trying to make the cool, smart play. So that's all I'll say about that. Where do I go? I'm giving myself an S. An S for screw you guys. All right, up next, we've got the Hilton Head Whalers at the 3 spot. Tim had a lot of slam dunks in this draft. He had a couple of dinks off the backboard and the rim as well, Angel Reese style. But really, he had more slam dunks than he had whiffs, I think. He had a great start to the draft, getting Tyreek, getting that number 1 tier wide receivers, a fantastic feeling. And then following it up with Jahmyr Gibbs. That's a great combo there for Tim. Jahmyr Gibbs should get a lot more work this year, even than he had last year, and he was a stud last year. Also was kind of hoping he would fall one more spot to me. But anyways, I think there are some questionable picks that Tim also made. The first one being right here, round 3, Nico Collins. I don't hate Nico Collins. I think he's a gifted player. If you all will remember, last year, I released my most faded pick, which was Jamar Chase in the top 10. I thought Jamar Chase didn't deserve to go in the top 10. I thought Joe Burrow was going to be hurt. I thought there was a lot of question marks around that. Jamar Chase, I think, was a little banged up. And I was just saying, listen, he's a great player, just not worth your first round pick. And I think Luke at this point would attest to that, saying, yes, Chase, you were right. Jamar Chase was not worth the top 5 pick I spent on him. Gosh, I wish I would have taken Christian McCaffrey. Anyways, I digress. Nico Collins, to me, the reason I'm fading him is not the same reason I faded Jamar Chase. It's because there's a lot of mouths to feed in Houston. You've got Tank Dell, you've got Stephon Diggs there now, and then you've got a brand new running back there as well. And Dalton Schultz is a really good tight end. So I just don't know, unless the Texans are blowing everybody out by 30 points, I just don't know how much there is for all of them to eat. That's why I wouldn't take Nico Collins in maybe the third round, but I'd take him probably in the fourth or fifth. So moving on for Tim, the best pick I believe he made came in the fourth round. Josh Jacobs is a fantastic pick. He's skyrocketing up everybody's rankings right now because A.J. Dillon's hurt and Josh Jacobs is going to be a workhorse for this Packers offense. He's also a running back that's proven that under the right circumstances, he can be a league winner. And so great pickup there for Tim. He's going at like 20 to 30 right now, and Tim got him in the fourth round. Great pick. Most questionable pick for Tim, for me, it's got to be Malik Neighbors. I don't hate that pick. I don't think it's a bad pick. That's why it's the questionable pick. He's a rookie, and he's kind of going where a rookie talented wide receiver should go, in the fifth round, as opposed to, I don't know, the second round where Marvin Harrison Jr. is going. And that's not a dig on Brett. That's where all experts have Marvin Harrison Jr. ranked. I disagree. So Malik Neighbors, he's on a really bad offense. The Giants suck. Daniel Jones sucks. They don't even have Saquon anymore. Devin Singletary, who I do like as a player, just not even the same caliber. People are going to be keyed in on Malik Neighbors, and so I just think he's up against a wall. I like taking the shot at him. I just probably wouldn't have taken him in the fifth round because there were some proven players that were there that he could have taken. But hopefully it works out. You know, it's kind of like the Rashee Rice pick. Hopefully it works out. It's a good idea to see if you can get the upside. Now, where Tim really whiffed was in the very next round when Joe Burrow got taken in round 6. Tim. You were having a great draft up until Joe Burrow. That, my friend, was a mistake because Joe Burrow could have been taken in round 8 or 9. There's still a lot of talent left. For instance, Rashee Rice, Tank Dell, Trey McBride, James Conner. I mean, George Kittle, if you want George Kittle, which I guess Tim did take. So I don't know why I'm saying that. If you're not getting like a surefire top 3 or 4 quarterback, there's really no point in taking a quarterback before like round 8 this year, just because they're not really scramblers. Joe Burrow's not a scrambling quarterback. And so it doesn't really make sense to draft him super high. And that's not like super high. It's just you had players that were talented that you still could have taken and then gotten Joe Burrow in round 8. So I think that was a bad pick. For that reason, actually, let's take a look at Tim's team real quick before I forget. And his team, if you look at it holistically, I really like. Except for like, see this is listen. He has to play Chase Brown in the flex spot because he picked Joe Burrow in the 6th round. If he picks Tank Dell in the 6th round, he can play Tank Dell in the flex spot, which has so much more upside than Chase Brown. See, that's why you don't take Joe Burrow in the 6th round. Now you'll say, okay, well, the rest of his team looks good. And the rest of his team does look good. I like his team more than I like Brett's team. But when you look at what some of these other teams have, you're just like, man, I hope it stacks up in the long run for Timmy. But I do think Tim had a solid draft. I'm giving Tim a B. I think, just if he didn't pick Joe Burrow in the 6th round, he probably gets an A. But I'm going to give Tim a B for this time. All right, at the 4 spot this year, we have the victorious secret Champ. And Champ came into this draft knowing what he wanted at the 4 spot. He took Amon-Ra, and Brennan started crying because Brennan loves Amon-Ra St. Brown and found out that he was not going to fall to him this time. But I do like Amon-Ra. I hope he has a great year. I hope he can stay away from the injury. Champ started out this draft very strong. Amon-Ra to Kyron Williams, great. Now, again, like we've seen with some other teams, that 3rd round, people really kind of get crazy. And this is not a crazy pick, just like Nico Collins isn't a crazy pick. but there are better options, in my opinion, available than Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams had the second most targets last year, and I don't think he, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think he finished as a top 10 wide receiver with the second most targets in the league. So I think Devontae Adams is also getting older. Gardner Minshew's his quarterback. His offense isn't good. So I just don't think third round is where I would take him. Somebody is going to take him in the third round. So if Champ wanted Devontae Adams, that was the time to take him. It's just not my personal opinion that where he should be going. So Champ had some okay picks. Actually, looking back at the draft, Champ had some really good picks. And then it really reminded me of Tim in that he had some picks that I'm just like, man, what are you doing? But he started off really strong. Amon-Ra to Kyren, and even Devontae Adams. That is not a bad start. So best pick for Champ. We're going to cruise on down to the 6th round here. Amari Cooper in the 6th round is an insane value pick. I was going to take him, like I've said, if Champ did it. And so way to go, Champ. You got your boy. Champ loves Amari Cooper. And that is once again, great value pick for Champ in the 6th round. This is what I'm talking about when I say if people would have drafted like they're supposed to off the ADP, people would have been exposed for their tough draft tactics. Amari Cooper should have gone in the 5th or the 4th round, probably the 5th, and Champ would be getting a worse receiver at that point. But nonetheless, great pickup by Champ there. Fantastic pick. Also, James Conner in the 7th round is a great pick. It is where he should be going. Tons of upside if he stays healthy. If he stays healthy, he could be a top 10 running back, which is a fantastic find in the 7th round. So 2 really good picks for Champ there. Most questionable pick, I've already talked about it. It's Devontae Adams to me. I just don't think I would have spent a 3rd round pick on him that early. There were some better options. I would have taken Mike Evans over him. I would have taken Travis Etienne. I probably would have taken Drake London, Sam Laporta, Travis Kelce. I mean, most of them I would have taken over Devontae Adams, and somebody else would have taken Devontae Adams. I've been very happy with it. But Champ's round 4 pick, I did like Kenneth Walker. I think Kenneth Walker has a ton of upside. Seattle really likes him. He's going to be a bell cow there. And so once again, bad pick, good pick. Now, Champ's really bad pick came in that next round with CJ Stroud, who is not at all worth a round 5 pick when people like Lamar Jackson are still on the board and Anthony Richardson is still on the board and Alvin Kamara and Mark Andrews and Devontae Smith. It's just a bad pick. Most drafts have CJ Stroud in like the 60 to 70 range. And once again, as I've said, if you are not drafting a top 3 or 4 fantasy scoring quarterback because of their scrambling ability, they are a 3 or 4 ranked quarterback. There's no point in taking a pocket passing quarterback that early. Patrick Mahomes is not technically, in my opinion, a pocket passing quarterback because he will scramble. But I like CJ Stroud as a quarterback, insanely talented. As a fantasy quarterback, no way I'm taking him in the 5th round, unless you think he's going to win the MVP. If you think he's going to win the MVP, prove us all wrong, please. That would be hilarious. But overall, we'll look at Champ's team real quick, kind of get a holistic approach to it. James Conner, Kyren Williams, Devontae Adams, Amari Cooper. I love this receiving core. It's a fantastic receiving core. Devontae Adams, Amari Cooper, Amon-Ra. Kyle Pitts, question mark at tight end. He was banged up even today. Kenneth Walker, great flex. And once again, like 1 pick away, in my opinion, of just being a very scary team. He doesn't take CJ Stroud and takes, let me see here, Mark Andrews. Plugs him in at tight end. Man, that's a pretty scary team. But I think Champ's team is also, again, it's another good team. Just when you compare it to what some other people have, you're like, man, this might be a 500 team. It might be a 500 team. I could see Champ also making that 2nd playoff spot because if these guys stay healthy, they're good players. Tough. It's a tough call for Champ, which is why I'm going to give Champ a B. And the farther to the left you are, the better, I guess, your draft was. I don't know how that works. I'm not even going to worry about that. I thought Champ was a B draft, a good draft, just 1 or 2 mistakes. All right, and in the 5 spot, we have the 1, 2, 3, 4-time champion, Zachary Pelker, coming in hot. Again, he loves to draft from that 5 spot, and he's earned the right to for the past, honestly, few years now. So how did he do? Did he get that running back he loves and then pile really big wide receivers around him? Let's take a look. First pick, Bijan Robinson. I love Bijan Robinson this year. I also love Breece Hall this year. I really think you could go with either. And really excited for the upside with Bijan this year. And he followed that up with Deebo Samuel into Mike Evans into Jalen Waddle. So he's kind of following his path that he does, and he did it with CMC, which is get your top running back guy and then get really good wide receivers. Best pick for Zach actually came in round 5, Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon solidified Zach's draft in that round 5 spot. I am super high on Joe Mixon this year because Houston, like the Packers I mentioned, are going to have a light box for Josh Jacobs to rush in because of their ability to stretch the field. Houston is the same way. And Joe Mixon is going to be facing a very light box this year. The only question mark I have about Joe Mixon is he also faced a light box at times for Cincinnati. And he didn't really do too well. But I think Houston has a better offensive line than Cincinnati has had for Joe Mixon's career. And so I'm very excited about Joe Mixon this year. And I think that is a fantastic pick at the 5 spot. And it gives Zach 2 top-tier running backs to go with his receivers. Most questionable picks. Oh, I also have to mention, if you come all the way down here to pick round 15, Rico Dowdle is a fantastic pick in round 15. The day after Zach took Rico Dowdle, it was announced that Rico Dowdle will be RB1 in Dallas. Most people are fading Dallas's backfield, me included, but there is tremendous upside to take him in round 15 in case he does break through. So that is another fantastic pick for Zach. And I also love the Dalton Kincaid pick. I think he had him round 8. Is that correct? Yep. Love that pick as well. So, most questionable pick. It's tough because I'm not big on Deebo just because Deebo hasn't had a full season in years. I'm not big on. I love both of these picks. I love Deebo. I love Jalen Waddle. Jalen Waddle has also been hurt a lot. And I think combining them together is the questionable pick because I think what you'll find is the for the first time in a couple of years, Zach's team might deal with a lot of injuries this year. Deebo is now notoriously injured. Jalen Waddle gets injured a lot. You know who else gets injured a lot? Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon gets injured a lot. And so there are some question marks just around health, which is why I think both of these are questionable picks together just for health reasons. As players, they are fantastic picks. I love that Jalen Waddle in the 4th pick or 4th round. Great value there. And Zach's worst pick, again, he didn't have any egregious picks. Let me see here. Yeah. I mean, there weren't any egregious picks. Let me look through. I mean, maybe, but here's the thing. I'm not going to call an egregious pick after round 10. Like, oh, Zach, Xavier Worthy. A lot of mouths to feed in Kansas City, buddy, but round 9. I'm just saying that to mess with you. Now, Zach, again, solid draft. Only questions for Zach is around health of players. And Zach seems to have, I don't know if he's got Pfizer on speed dial or something, but last year his players just did not get hurt. And so Zach gets on up in that S tier. This is going to be another season of Zach competing in the playoffs. And that 5 spots worked out just beautifully for him. Nothing much else I can say. His receivers stay healthy. He's going to be really good this year. So be ready for more of the same, league. Be ready for more of the same. All right, now on to pick number 6, Brandon Mucho Mondos, who, as of me recording this, is the only owner in the league to have not set their lineup. So make sure you get that set for tomorrow, please. But let's take a look at Brandon's draft. I actually think this is one of the stronger drafts Brandon's had in the past few years. He was more prepared than at least 50% of everybody else in the draft room. And he made some solid picks that I was hoping would fall to me. I think if he tweaked his thinking just a bit on the draft, he could take this draft to the next level. For instance, he went Jamar Chase with his first pick to Puka Nakua. I'm higher on Jamar Chase this year than I was last year because Joe Burrow was healthy. But you're taking back-to-back picks in the first and second round that are both injury prone. I'm not big on that because you need either your first or second pick to hit or you're going to be cooked. But not bad picks again. Also, Cooper Kupp coming back kind of derails Puka Nakua's ADP. But I'm not going to hate on those picks. They're good picks. What was Brandon's best pick? Well, I think Brandon's best pick came in round 4, James Cook. Love James Cook this year. There's some issues with ball security in the preseason. I think he's going to be fine. This Buffalo offense, there's not a lot of mouths to feed. James Cook's going to eat. And again, this goes back to the whole, if you like a guy, is he going to be there in the next round? If not, you got to take him. James Cook would not have been there in round 5. How do I know that? Because I was going to take James Cook in round 4 or round 5. I was probably going to go Devon Achane to James Cook or James Cook to Devon Achane, one of those two. So Brandon took him at the right time because I was going to take him. I think James Cook is sneaky good. He had a crazy end of the year last year. Some other notable picks for Brandon. I think the Travis Etienne pick right before James Cook was awesome. It really solidifies Brandon's backfield and gives him a good workhorse crew to start the year. And then I also really like in round 7, Terry McLaurin. I think the Commanders are going to be much better this year. Although Sam Howell did a good job. I love Jaden Daniels. I hope he puts it together this year. He's got some shades of RG3 in him. And if so, Terry McLaurin is a massively underrated wide receiver 1 who could get a lot of looks this year. And so that could be a sneaky good pick for Brandon in round 7. Great pick there. Most questionable pick is going to be the one that went right before, Ramondre Stevenson. Not really a believer in the Pats offense or what Ramondre Stevenson can do, but Brandon took him in the 6th round, so it's not like it's going to be a league-losing type of move for him. Just a little bit questionable. Worst pick. Let me see. It was a pretty dang solid draft for Brandon. He really, typically with Brandon, you'll have a pick in the first 5 rounds where you're like, he didn't do that this year. It was really a good draft for Brandon. Getting Kyler Murray in 8. Once again, Kyler Murray should be going before Joe Burrow. And so just take note of that, Tim. I think the worst pick for Brandon is in round 9, he took a defense. I don't think you should be taking a defense that early. There's a lot of picks still to be had. Raheem Mostert is a good pick. DeAndre Hopkins is still available. Brian Thomas is a very good sleeper for the Jaguars. Also, it's not just that he took a defense. He took a Dallas defense that's going to be worse than it was last year. Take it from me. I know. I bleed the big D. and so I just think not only did he take a defense in round 9, he took a bad defense before he could have had the 49ers defense instead of Dallas's defense. So that's kind of a bad pick. It's tough to say that's an awful pick because it's in round 9. It's not going to change his life. But just in general, would not have taken that in that spot. So it's a bad pick. So where does Dawn land on this? Well, I actually have Brandon between a B and an A. I'm going to give Brandon an A for this draft. I think really just one little mistake in round 9, which he's going to be fine with. I think he's got a really solid team. Let's come over here and take a look. Also love the Caleb Williams pick at the end. I wish this lineup was set so I could look at it better. I have to envision it. Kyler Murray, James Cook, Travis Etienne, and then his receiving core is Jamar Chase, Terry McLaurin, Puka, DJ Moore in the flex spot. So Brandon really does not have a hole on this team. Who's his tight end? Dallas Goedert. Maybe Dallas Goedert's a hole, but I think he's going to be just fine. So, yeah. Great job, Brandon. Great draft. Great draft, buddy. All right, and in the 7th spot, we've got the proud owner and operator of Brennan's Buttholes, Brennan the Biz Callahan himself, who had Breece Hall dropped to him. I mean, that's pretty fantastic. A lot of people have Breece Hall in the top 5. Some people take him before Bijan. I think they're really similar, but having him drop to 7 is freaking awesome for Brennan. I've gone back and forth. I've looked at Brennan's draft many times and kind of poured over it, really. Once again, free information for all of you people to consider and make your lives better off of. I've gone back and forth on Brennan's draft, trying to decide if I think this is a league-winning team or if he took some shots that may not land. I think it can be both. What do I mean? Brennan took Breece Hall and Derrick Henry back to back. Immediately, that's the best That's the best running back crew or starting running backs in the league. It's that right there. Breece Hall and Derrick Henry. That is a scary, scary running back tandem that will probably win Brennan some games on their own as long as they stay healthy, which they don't really have like big health issues. But by doing that, Brennan kind of left some question marks at the wide receiver core. And the wide receivers he picked, which great picks. We're going to get into this. They just aren't proven yet. And so tremendous upside just aren't proven yet. If I was in his spot these first 4 rounds, I'm trying to think. That's why I'm like pouring over it, because I don't really care for this 3rd and 4th round pick. But I don't think there was necessarily a better pick for him to take. And so, like, I'm just like, I think this was the best that he had at the time. So, moving on, best pick, getting Chris Olave in the 4th round. See, this is where I can tell if somebody's actually done research or not. Chris Olave should not be going in the 4th round. Chris Olave is a 20 to 30 ADP guy, 20 to 25 in most leagues. Yes, questions around the offense of the Saints. Chris Olave is going to have a ridiculous amount of target share in that offense, and he's already proven he can perform. That is an unbelievable pick for Brennan in round 4. I mean, it's just nuts. Drake London to Chris Olave. The only reason that I'm nervous about it is because, again, and this goes into the questionable side of things, neither of these guys have done it for a full season. Drake London especially has not proven anything yet. And so taking them in the 3rd and the 4th as your wide receivers puts a lot of pressure on making sure those work. And if they don't work, Brennan, he may be cooked towards the end of the season. But, Kirk Cousins is in Atlanta now. It's a new offensive coordinator. Drake London should have a good year. And Chris Olave should have a good year. And so if we're talking on paper, Brendan had some real steals in this draft that were nuts. Chris Olave being one. Really, the only questionable thing that I have for pick-wise is the Olave London ordeal. Worst pick. None of Brendan's picks were awful, but he took Anthony Richardson in round 5. Experts have Anthony Richardson going around 5. I don't really. I'm fading him because he's injury prone. He hasn't shown anything really, and people are just taking it because he'll run the ball himself. I think skip on him. Shore up more of your wide receiver core to make sure like you're protected there. You could have had Devontae Smith, who we'll talk about in a little bit, but you could have had Devontae Smith, which really would have helped your receivers. Anything else I have written out here? Could have had Amari Cooper. But again, like, let's go look at Brennan's team. Let's go look at his team. Brennan's buttholes. I mean, this is a good team. Jake Ferguson's tough. As a tight end, I probably wouldn't have wanted him. But that's the thing is he could have passed on Anthony Richardson and taken Mark Andrews and then just gotten a solid quarterback. I mean, he took Anthony Richardson before Lamar Jackson went. I think I even forgot to mention that on Zach's deal. Zach got Lamar Jackson in the 6th round. What is wrong with you people? Anyways, Brennan has a good team. If one of these two hit, Drake London or Chris Olave, Brennan is going to be very scary to play against this year. Brennan was very scary to play against last year, but injuries derailed his season. I think people forget about that. And for that reason, Brennan is going into the S tier for his draft this year. Good luck, Brennan. Hope to see you in the playoffs. All right. And then at the 8th spot, we've got aka Tyler, who passed on Justin Jefferson and picked Jonathan Taylor in the 8th spot. And I don't hate that call. I probably would have taken Justin Jefferson because I think it's pretty important this year to get a top tier wide receiver. But Jonathan Taylor, if you have your guy again, Jonathan Taylor's probably not going to be there on round 2 whenever Tyler's picking again. So if that's your guy, you take him. So I'm not going to hate on that pick. I think JT, if he stays healthy, he's going to have a big year. And then Garrett Wilson is a top wide receiver, top tier. So I think Tyler had a really good 1-2 pick right there. Taking a look here. Best pick for Tyler. and I love this pick. DeAndre Hopkins in round 10 is a fantastic pick. Ton of upside. Him and Will Levis keep growing. Their chemistry keep growing together. And there's a lot of reports out of preseason that DeAndre Hopkins looks very good this year. If that's the case, that is going to be a massive payoff at round 10 for Tyler. He got, what I found when looking at Tyler's draft is he got a ton of really good value picks in these later rounds. Probably because people were taking defenses in the 10th round, kickers before that, and quarterbacks before that when they shouldn't have been. When you look at this, he got Hollywood Brown, he got Christian Watson, he got DeAndre Hopkins, he got Nick Chubb, who, if he plays, fantastic. I mean, those are just value picks that Tyler's getting at late rounds that really other people probably should have taken. So, great picks there for Tyler. I also think the Alvin Kamara pick in the 6th round is also going to probably be a good pick, or 5th round. Was it 5th or 6th? Let me see here. That's the 6th round. 5th round. And the 5th round, I like Alvin Kamara this year as well. There's going to be a lot of dump-off action in New Orleans, and if he's healthy, he's going to have a good year. Most questionable picks. So I have Travis Kelce in one of the leagues I am in, but I was able to get him in the 4th round, and that's kind of where I would draft him. The good news for Tyler is he'll never have to worry about the production out of his tight end spot because Travis Kelce will get his looks. It's just, are you going to get the first half of last year Travis Kelce or the second half of last year Travis Kelce? Especially with, I know I've said this, how many mouths there are to feed now in Kansas City. This isn't an offense that has to flow through Travis Kelce anymore. You've got Rashee Rice, Juju's coming back, Hollywood Brown eventually from injury, and then you also have Xavier Worthy. And so it'll be interesting to see how many looks Kelce ends up getting. If you look at Tyler's team, I think if he takes Chris Olave in this spot, his team is really set up for more success. Speaking of Chris Olave, and this segues right into Tyler's bad pick, which is an egregious pick. Egregious. It's not the most, it's actually kind of close. It's not the most egregious pick, but it's a pretty egregious pick. What the flip is Calvin Ridley doing getting picked in the 4th round? Look at these people that are still on the board that he could have picked. He could have had Chris Olave instead. Calvin Ridley is like a fit ADP like 50 to 60 player. Chris Olave, James Cook, Jalen Waddle. Brandon Ayuk is still out there, dude. Heck, Malik Neighbors, DK. And he took Calvin Ridley, who had a very disappointing season last year and is going to a new offense with a worse quarterback. Tyler. Unless you're a prophet who sees the resurrection of Calvin Ridley's career, I'm not seeing it. And he also took T. Higgins over like Amari Cooper. I think that's a bad pick. So there's a couple of really tough choices for Tyler there. We'll go look at his team. Let's see here. Where's A? Jared Goff, sneaky good pick because he's playing most of his games in a dome this year and he does really good in domes. Anyway, this wide receiver core is not great. I just gotta say it. It's not great. T. Higgins and Calvin Ridley. I would not want to rely on T. Higgins and Tennessee Titans wide receivers to play well for my team to do well. That's all I'm saying, Tyler. I think Christian Watson is going to, I think hopefully he'll have a really good year because you're going to need the help. Your rounds like 4, when are you taking? Yeah, 4 through 5, 6, not great. 8 till freaking 16, fantastic. For that reason, Tyler is getting a C for Calvin Ridley. All right, after Tyler is Luke, Leather Daddy. And we might need to make a new league rule that Luke has to bring a laptop or tablet to draft off of because him drafting just off his phone, not gone well. It's not gone well. I got to credit him. There were some real heartfelt picks in this year's draft for Luke. I hope they work out for him. Taking Saquon in the 9th spot was not a bad start to the draft. It's just, whew, what happens after Saquon is a little rough. So, best pick. Devontae Smith in round 6 is a very good pick. It's kind of like where did Chris Olave go? Round 4. It's kind of like the equivalent of that in round 6. Devontae Smith should have gone in round 4 to 5. Luke getting him in round 6 saves his team. All right? Saves his team. If people were drafting with their heads and not taking CJ Stroud in round 5 and taking Devontae Smith instead, Luke might be cooked. But Devontae Smith falls to him. That is a fantastic pick in the 6th spot. Hopefully it really helps him win some games this year because he's going to need the help. Questionable pick, round 5, DeAndre Swift. I don't hate DeAndre Swift. I think he is a sneaky good player. If Chicago plays him right, he could have a lot of upside. He's injury prone. He's never put it together for a full season. And so round 5, it's just a risky pick. That's why I have him as questionable. I'm going to go easy on Luke with the questionable pick because the bad picks, they're real bad. Real bad. Like I mentioned, Calvin Ridley in the 4th for Tyler is egregious. More egregious is Michael Pittman Jr. in the 2nd round. I don't know if Luke forgot we're not a PPR league or a half PPR league. I like Michael Pittman as a receiver. Michael Pittman should be going in the 4th or the 5th round. He took Michael Pittman over Garrett Wilson, Derrick Henry. I'm going to skip Puka, Debo, Kyron, Jahmyr Gibbs, Isaiah Pacheco, Marvin Harrison Jr., Josh Allen. I mean, my word, dude. Second round, man. That's why I'm saying getting Devontae Smith kind of saves him a little bit because it gives him another wide receiver to help. Let's look at his team. He also took Patrick Mahomes in the 3rd round. Patrick Mahomes, Saquon, DeAndre Swift, Keenan Allen, Stephon Diggs. I mean, this is a David Njoku. You're welcome. Michael Pittman. He took Dak just to make me mad. So maybe I should be mean. But I am nothing if not fair. I think Luke's team is going to struggle this year. I think he's going to win some games. But I think it's going to be a really, really tough year for Luke because this just doesn't stack up against the top half of the league's teams right now. It just doesn't. It just doesn't. I'm sorry, Luke. It's a D. Good luck. And finally, we have Michael Joseph Carlin, the gentleman, coming in at the 10 spot this year. And I got to say, at first, I was impressed with Mike's draft strategy. You see, Mike deployed a draft strategy called zero RB strategy. I'm not going to say he may not even know he did this. I highly doubt he didn't know what he was doing because it's Mike. I think the strategy worked out until like round 4, round 5. We'll talk more about that. At first, I was really sweating when I was seeing what he was doing because this is a great draft to deploy a zero RB strategy because there's a lot of depth in the later rounds to still get RB1s on teams. And there's so much better wide receiver talent at the front end of the draft than there is at the later end of the draft. So I saw Mike doing this and I was like, man, he's looking really freaking good, especially through the first 3 rounds. Getting Justin Jefferson at 10 is a great fall. So good stuff for Mike. And then following that up with AJ Brown, I love that 1-2 pick. Then Mike went Sam Laporta. I'm not super big on that pick, but I understand it. He could have another big year. And you don't have to worry about tight end production now. Round 4, and we'll talk about this in a second because we're going to get into some questionable picks. So I'm going to pause there for now. Let's talk about Mike's best pick. Going to round 11, Jerome Ford in round 11 for Mike is a fantastic pick. Tremendous upside, especially if Nick Chubb's out for a long time and Jerome Ford doesn't get hurt. He's going to see a lot of work for Cleveland. And just at the 11th spot, I'm ashamed of myself because I forgot Jerome Ford was out there and I probably would have taken him if I would not have forgotten that. And so that's a fantastic pickup for Mike. And then also, I like Deontay Johnson this year. He's going to be the wide receiver 1 for the Panthers, who are going to be better this year. and he's really a possession wide receiver, so he's going to see a lot of targets thrown his way. So I like Deontay Johnson pick. I like the Jerome Ford pick. Let's go to the questionable picks. So rounds 4 and 5 for Mike. More opportunities to continue to deploy the RB strategy, zero RB strategy, or take an RB that is really good, that is still available, like Josh Jacobs, Kenneth Walker, James Cook, Devon Achane. I think Jalen Hurts is a tough pick there because there's still so much upside on other QBs. Like I see Jalen Hurts similar to Anthony Richardson. I just think there's so much QB depth in this draft that Mike could have gone. He could have gone Justin Jefferson, AJ Brown, and then he could have gone. Let's say he goes Sam Laporta at 3, right? So it's wide receiving core: Justin Jefferson, AJ Brown, Sam Laporta, and then Mike round 4 could have gone Josh Jacobs, or even better. Here, let's do this. Took Jalen Hurts, right? And then who did he take after that? Yeah. See, this is where it gets bad. He took Mark Andrews. So that's Mike's team through 5 rounds. Tell me, which team are you more scared of? This team that Mike picked, or let's say Mike did this instead. He picked Justin Jefferson and AJ Brown, 2 fantastic picks. And then he went Josh Jacobs, Kenneth Walker, or James Cook. And then in the 5th round, he took Jalen Hurts, because Jalen Hurts is still going to be there. Or he could have taken Mark Andrews, because Mark Andrews was there in the 5th round. Which team is scarier to you? The team on the right should be scarier to you. It is a deep team. It's a team with hitters at every position. Mike took 2 tight ends in the first 5 rounds. That's a Mike move. Don't get me wrong. It's a move of trade bait or thinking he knows better. I'm just telling you, it's not a good move. There's way too much talent still out there he could have had and really made his team more deep. So, I mean, he could have Devon Achane too. It really solidifies his team if he goes that route, so that he's not counting on these old running backs like Aaron Jones, who is extremely injury prone, or Raheem Mostert, who had a magical season last year. We'll get more to that in a second. Worst pick for Mike, though. Worst pick is Justin Tucker. And Mike picked Justin Tucker. It was like, 10 to 15 points a game. Justin Tucker was not 10 to 15 points a game last year. And Mike also was like, and I made it to the championship last year, with Justin Tucker, because he picked Justin Tucker early last year as well. What Mike isn't telling you is that in Mike's division, he was the 4th highest scoring team of 5. And he was in the bottom half of the league scoring last year. What saved Mike last year was that he was the lowest scoring team against by a wide margin. Okay? So, taking Justin Tucker in round 7 when Dalton Kincaid, Chris Godwin, Kyler Murray, Brian Rob, maybe not B-Rob, but there's just so much value still to be had before Justin Tucker. Justin Tucker wasn't even the number 1 scoring kicker last year. And so it's a bad pick. It's just a bad pick. And let's go look at Mike's team real quick to see how it kind of shakes out. And right here, you're seeing it. He's got Jalen Hurts, had a down year last year. Raheem Mostert had a magical season. So if Mike thinks Raheem Mostert is going to score 20 touchdowns again, it makes sense to have him in your starting lineup. Aaron Jones is going to break his neck week 1. I like Aaron Jones. I love Aaron Jones. He's just so injury prone. AJ Brown, Justin Jefferson, Sam Laporta all make sense. But he's playing Darnell Mooney, he's playing Aaron Jones, and he's playing Raheem Mostert. All right? Let's do this again. Let's do Zach's team. Let's not do my team, because everybody's going to say, you're comparing everybody to your team. No, let's look at Zach's team. You tell me where on Zach's team you would play Darnell Mooney, Aaron Jones, or Raheem Mostert over, or Jalen Hurts over any of these people. The only kind of question mark for Zach is Najee Harris. I mean, it's just wild. He's got Darnell Mooney in his freaking starting lineup. You know. Overall, I think Mike left some great picks on the field. His strategy going into it, the 0 RB strategy, almost worked so well. If he would have pivoted off of it in round 4, I think he would have a super, super scary team. But got a little distracted. Got to do it. He's getting a D. And with that, we have our draft rankings for this year. I hope you all had a fun draft. I'm very excited again to see where this season shakes out. It's going to be a lot of fun. First game tomorrow. Can't wait for it. Do not forget to get your weekly pick'ems in. The ZP3 4-time champion challenge going on here. He went ahead and, in a really cool way, got a pick'em going for our league. I went ahead and submitted mine yesterday, so make sure you go through and submit yours as well. And once again, cannot wait for this season. Thank you for choosing me to impart judgment upon the great people, the great owners of this league. This has been your 1, 2, 3-time champion and commissioner of the EaglePoint Butts Football League saying, have a great week to the whole league. Goodbye.